What's up, you guys? Welcome to the first ever episode of Move Accordingly. I'm your host, Malcolm Charles. The purpose of this podcast is to explain through my stories and my experiences how I've learned to navigate New York City, growing up in your 20s, balancing going out, partying, relationships, women, balancing money, making money, and creating a business. All these things entirely is what I've done in the last couple of years while living in New York City. I fucked up more than I can count, but I've had a bunch of successes all the way, all building up to where I am right now, living in New York City with a platform to be able to share with you guys all those experiences. All this together, I'll be explaining the good parts about living in New York City, the ugly parts about growing up in your 20s alone, and the really, really fun parts about being a kid just learning how to navigate life. I really want to stress that this is going to be a show where I expose absolutely everything about myself because I'm so sick and tired of listening to podcasts and watching videos on YouTube and TikTok about people talking about their life and leaving out the best details. I'll be honest, I don't give a fuck about your get ready with me morning routine. I don't care how you're ironing your mattress and sheets to make it look perfectly crisp. I don't care how you're making your bed in the morning or how you're making your breakfast and preparing your shake. I want to see you fucked up 8 a.m. coming home looking absolutely feral from an insane weekend. And I think a lot of people do too. So my purpose of this show is to expose myself and provide you guys entertainment and education at the expense of myself and my friends' mental health. So without further ado, let's fucking run it. It's currently November and Halloween weekend just passed. And honestly, every year during Halloween, it's the most feral time. I don't know why, but there's only 2 times a year when it's this feral. Fashion Weeks and Halloween weekend. I think Fashion Week is because people are coming from all over the world to New York City. They want to experience culture and live up to that stereotypical New York City dream life that everyone sees on TikTok and social media and being pushed in just the narrative of New York. During Halloween weekend, everyone is trying to be everywhere at every point in time, showing off all of their outfits. I personally don't know why people are so obsessed with Halloween. I don't know if it's because they've been influenced from Mean Girls from the time they were like 4 years old, or if it's because they've been planning their Halloween costumes for this year, starting last year, going to Pinterest, sourcing their fabrics, trying to figure out inspiration, putting their posts together to get a perfect outfit. Every motherfucker becomes a fashion designer during Halloween weekend, people. I don't know why, but whatever it is, it's just too much for me. In New York City in particular, there's been events starting from Wednesday going up until Monday. Halloween was on Sunday this year, and so people were going absolutely nuts. Events start on Wednesday. You go out Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and then also on Monday night. Now for me, that's nothing crazy, but a lot of people that aren't used to going out and partying all of the time, like it can get a lot, trust. On a typical week for me, I start my weekends on a Wednesday, and I go out like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and that's it. But honestly, even this week, I found myself getting a little overwhelmed by the amount of events and amount of outings and opportunities to show up to that were just happening. It was like a little much. Because everyone's going to be out and about, there are events at every single club. And I mean every single one. There's not a stone unturned, a club untouched that's not having an event any night of the week, which is really fun, but also can put a lot of pressure and also sort of bring the quality of the clubs down. Because when clubs are oversaturated and there's an event every single night, you don't really want to go. And especially when it's not like the normal crowd, the crowds can get really chuggy, they can get really touristy, and it's really packed with people that you don't want to see. Going out till 6 a.m. on a random weekend is not anything crazy, but when you're doing it from Wednesday until Monday, that gets a bit much, especially balancing work or going to college or in school or whatever else your responsibilities may be. Like during this week, Halloween, events, president, everything else. My friend group has been planning their outfits for the past 6 months, and they still have trouble putting it all together this week. Because there's events from Wednesday to Monday, that does not mean the outfits are the same either. No, not at all. You need an outfit for Wednesday events, Thursday events, Friday events, and etc., with the best outfits scattered on like Sunday, Thursday, and like Wednesday. It's really random, it's really wacky. I don't understand it, but it's just how it is. What I don't understand about Halloween weekend is for the people that are club rats, you're already going out every single week at the exact same clubs. So I don't know why they're putting the pressure on it to do even 10 times more than normal, because like we're already going to be hitting the exact same clubs, seeing the exact same people with the exact same music and DJs. But it's beyond me. I throw a bunch of parties, so there's nothing crazy for us, but I think it's just really interesting to see how people take on Halloween weekend with such a different perspective than how normal weeks go. What's also interesting is that there's no time off of work for this. So you're just committing yourself to like 4 or 5 days of just absolutely feral activity for absolutely no gain. You're sacrificing your health, your liver, your sobriety, your mental health, because after 4 days, that depression from the hangovers and whatever other drugs you're on is going to be absolutely fucked, let's be honest. But hey, fuck it, we ball. I'm going to rally, my friends are all going to rally, and I'm sure a lot of you guys rallied too. I don't know what was in the air, or probably alcohol this year, but the amount of puke I found on the streets of New York City every single night was absolutely disgusting. I posted a TikTok making fun of all the puke and vomit I've seen on Halloween weekend, and people commented, they're like, it's because there's been 2 years of no events. And all of a sudden when events are back, you have all these college kids that didn't get those great experiences with now that have adult money. So they're able to go to the clubs, get the alcohol, and go out and party super hard with their friends, but they're not good at building a tolerance. They're just going out, going absolutely feral for the weekend, and getting absolutely slaughtered. What I mean is 10 o'clock and I'm going to a friend's pregame to start the night. I'm pulling up to the subway station. I'm seeing Count Dracula bent over with his girlfriend holding him up, absolutely pulling trig for the life of him. Man is on his knees in the subway station, just puking his guts out. As someone that basically lives in nightlife, I've seen a lot of throw up. I've seen a lot of people passed out and getting super fucked up. But this past week, for some reason, there was something in the air that just made everyone black the fuck out. Me included. I threw my Halloween party this year on Thursday, so it wasn't Wednesday, so people weren't starting too early, and it wasn't like Friday or Saturday when people are going to be swarmed with events. I picked to do it on Thursday night, and it was one of the most fun times I've had in an extremely long time. Because when you do events for so long, they get pretty repetitive, but since it was Halloween, there's a different kind of energy in the air, and this club we were at is always super high energy. It's a super small club, and just when you're inside of it, just the energy and the DJ and the surrounding of the entire crowd there, it's just a really fun time. You have people on elevated surfaces, you have people on the ground, on the tables, just throwing bottles, killing Hennessy. It was a really great night. And my friends ended up leaving the club at 4:30 in the morning. Do you know how absurd that is in New York City? Most clubs in New York City start at like 10, 11 o'clock and go till like 2:30. Now, for someone to leave a club at 4:30 in New York City is insane. But I can't even say I did because I cannot rally. Come 3 a.m., I'm absolutely done. I'm done. My Uber is called. It's outside. It's calling me saying, yo, I'm outside. Come through. And so I'm out of there. But my friends were in the club until 4:30 in the morning because I checked their location when I got home about to go to sleep. These motherfuckers are still in the club getting it going. They sent me a video of them pouring shots down each other's throats at 4 a.m. I used to get up at that time and go to the gym. People are starting their workday. It's absolutely insane to see how people are pushing themselves and throwing it back this week. Like, I'm a proud club dad. But something really interesting that's come up in the news lately is the eviction of famous club One Oak. One Oak is this infamous nightclub that's situated on Chelsea that's been operating for at least the last decade. And with the eviction of this, it really shows the effect of COVID that's had on the nightlife world and it's the entertainment business in whole. One Oak is a club that stands for one of a kind, and it truly is. This nightclub is spectacular. It's the top of the line clubs for the celebrities, for high-end people, and it's a really fun experience. Like, Rihanna hosted the official Met Gala after party at One Oak just a couple years ago. All of the celebrities and socialites you hate, like Lindsay Lohan, all the way to people like Drake and his entire crew of mutuals, they've all been to One Oak, and this is the place to party. But allegedly, One Oak owes over $1.8 million in back rent from 2020. It's said that One Oak costs $78,000 a month to uphold rent, which is absolutely nuts. Honestly, for New York City, I guess that's pretty average because pricing goes from like $30,000 to $250,000 a month for rent, but that's absolutely nuts for this space. I guess if you're a nightclub and you're selling tables starting at like $5,000 or $10,000 like most nightclubs do, you can pay it off and it makes sense. But $78,000 a month, that's absolutely insane. I think this is just really interesting because when the owners of the club were reached out to for a comment, the representatives said that apparently they had no idea this was happening and that they had already discussed like terms with their landlord for why this would not be happening. But then the Marshal of New York City said they've been officially evicted. But allegedly the reason they haven't been able to pay back rent is because they've had their assets frozen from a separate business account. Now, I'm not exactly sure what any of this means, and I can be completely wrong in skewing my words. But because of COVID, there's a lot of protocols and procedures placed to keep businesses afloat and keep them safe to not be absolutely hit so hard by the pandemic. But because the pandemic has essentially come to an end, a lot of these debt collection agencies have been up and running again, and a lot of debt is starting to be owed, and everything's getting back and running. So this is really scary to see that all these businesses that were in so much debt and were protected under the government are now absolutely fucked. It's crazy that a location such as One Oak can go from being one of the most prestigious and notable nightclubs in New York City and entertainment spaces to going absolutely out of business and $2 million in debt. I'm not old enough to know about all of like the 90s and early 2000s clubs, but like hearing about Limelight and Studio 54 and all these huge notable clubs that are all shut down due to like drugs or due to sex trafficking or all these like insane allegations against them. Seeing it happen in my own time is just really, really eye-opening. But the owner of One Oak did say that in 2020 that they were going to get more events going back up in New York City. However, they've only had like 1 or 2 events. One was the VMAs after party in 2021. I don't know what the other one was. But it just sucks to see a place that was so fun and so iconic be shut down just like that. However, I have the utmost respect and admiration for the owner, Richie Akiva, because this guy is an absolute god. He does everything from hospitality, working in nightlife and clubs, to now working with hotels and building social clubs. And I think what he's doing is amazing for the culture of New York City, for the culture of nightlife. And when you think about what culture actually is at its core, I think of like nightlife, music, celebrities, and events. He is capturing the top of every single niche that makes up culture today and putting it all together to create amazing events and opportunities in New York City and around the world. And so honestly, props to him. Richie, if you're watching this, We need to work together because I would love to put an event on with you. Although I work in nightlife and I think it's a really exciting and interesting industry, I am not the biggest fan of it. Because when you really look at the details of it and the people involved, it's very slimy and there's a lot of people in it that are just absolutely out there to fuck you and get whatever they want from it. For example, promoters can be some of the most sleazy and disgusting people you will ever run into when going out. The main role of a promoter is to bring girls into a club, take them to a table, and help enhance the overall atmosphere of a club. Then you have hosts whose job is to not only bring people to the club, but also sell tables and generate revenue for the club and help build that culture even more inside of that club itself. Promoters can be super gross because the nightlife industry is extremely unregulated. For example, if you're a licensed therapist, there is no fraternization allowed with any of your patients or you can lose your license immediately. But in nightlife, it's completely different. There's so many stories of promoters bringing girls out to the club, luring them out with the opportunity to come out and meet all these famous celebrities and party at the most exclusive clubs and events. And then when they come out, the promoters try to hook up with them, they touch them inappropriately, and they try to make advances that they're super uncomfortable with, and the girls are really just there to go out with them and just party. Now, the lines around this can get very blurry very quickly because when you're going out to a party, a lot of the culture around partying and clubbing is to hook up with someone and want to go out and just get really drunk. And all these things are very normal in the culture. But when you're working in it, you're on the opposite side of it. You're there to create those experiences for other people. And a lot of promoters try to create that experience for themselves. And that's the problem. One of the main reasons I really got into nightlife and creating my events is because I wanted to change the way that culture of nightlife operates. I wanted to take it from less super exclusive and gross and slimy and make it more inclusive and make it more fun for everybody to be around and just bring the energy of the club up instead of making it really slimy and pretentious. Now, I'm working at that. It's going to take a very long time to do that. But that's one of my mission statements I made to myself that I want to do, not get caught up in the culture of what is today. A lot of promoters let the power of having a table at a club go to their head. Now, it's very easy because you're giving bottle service, you're getting all these pretty girls around you, and you're at these most exclusive venues all around the world, and you're getting them for free, and you're actually being paid for it. And then when you're in the club so often, trying to buy the most beautiful people at the most fun and exclusive events, it can easily go to your head thinking that you have all this power. Except a lot of promoters forget that the second they step 2 feet off of that club onto that curb, they have nothing, and they are nobodies. The reality of promoters is that their only job is to bring people into the club to help enhance the experience. And at that, they have no power outside of the club or in the club itself. They don't control who actually gets in. That's the bouncers and the door hosts. They only control what's happening at their table at exact given time. I think what makes a good promoter is someone that's transparent with his clients and the girls that he brings out to the tables and does not try to make any approaches with them or try anything with them because you want to create a good atmosphere for everybody else. Because being a promoter is a job, it's a profession, you can't be fucking it up by getting super drunk, by hooking up with the girls you bring out, by having a sharp tongue and cursing people out. Like, it just is not a good time, and it's not a good look on you. And you know that the second you're not in that club, if you're talking shit about somebody, you'll get punched in the face outside of that club, and no one is going to get involved with that. I've seen promoters cursed out outside of the club. I've seen promoters get dropped by drunk people because they were talking shit to them inside the club. I've seen bouncers throw promoters out because they were too drunk. Promoters need to know their place, and they don't have the power they actually think they do, and they really need to have some type of humility because there are so many accounts that I can't even remember of times that guys have been absolute assholes inside the club, and the second they leave, their attitude changes immediately, or they're running away acting like the biggest pussies around because they realize that, damn, like, I don't have security to back me up. I'm not at a club anymore. I'm not at a table. I don't have anyone surrounding me, and, like, it's just me. So, promoters, you need to do better. And if you are a good promoter, please reach out to me because we're trying to build like a huge industry right now. We're trying to do huge events and we need a better team around us because I've worked with so many promoters in this city that are just absolute assholes and terrible people. I will say, however, promoters are not all terrible. There's been great people who've been extremely hospitable to me and helped me out in so many ways and made me feel really welcome. I feel like the quality of a promoter is shown not in how he treats the women that he brings out, but in how he treats the guys. If I'm at a club and a promoter is at a table and I walk over to them to talk, or I'm talking to one of his girls at his table and he's like inclusive to me, he doesn't have to be giving me drinks or anything at all. But if he just like says hi and respects that I'm just talking to someone, I can appreciate that because there's been so many times where I'll walk up to a table or one of my friends just last weekend, we're at a club and one of my guy friends came to the table and this promoter out of nowhere comes up to him, starts cursing him out, telling him to get the fuck away from the table. He said, it's for girls only, like you're not allowed to come anywhere around here, even though I was hosting the table. Like promoters can be so gross and so aggressive sometimes for absolutely no reason. I think that if the culture of nightlife just becomes a little bit more inclusive once you're already in the club, like it'll be so much better because it's so hard already to get past those bouncers at the front door, past that door host at the front, then past security. And then if you're already making it up to the club, I feel like there needs to be like a pretension out the window because no one likes a club where everyone feels judged. Just my opinion though. I really think it's because a lot of people don't respect promoters, that when promoters are in the club and in a position of power, that they overtake it and they let it go to their head because no one else respects them. So the only respect they're given is when they have a bottle of alcohol in their hand. There's always gray areas and there's always outliers when it comes to talking about promoters or anyone or any profession anywhere. But in general, I feel like promoters really need to let their ego come down a little bit and focus more on creating the hospitality of an event and creating a good event rather than just looking out for their own ego and their own gains because that is how nothing gets done. However, bouncers, on the other hand, they're a completely different breed. In this, I can say I've met bouncers who are the nicest, funniest, and most caring people in the entire planet, which is contradictory to everything you normally think about bouncers. But then I've met those bouncers that meet the exact stereotype of exactly what you're thinking about. Those bouncers that are absolute assholes, that will curse you out, that tell you to get the fuck inside, that tell you you're ugly, you're making their job harder, that your IDs are fake even when the IDs aren't fake. Just complete asshole bouncers as well. There's just one club where I work at where I'm on a first name basis with every single person that works there as a bouncer, and I really appreciate that. I think there needs to be a mutual level of respect, because if I'm working in a club and so is a bouncer, we need to have some type of dynamic because there's just no reason to not. Because we're both trying to put on a good event. We're both trying to make the event as good as possible, as inclusive as possible, and as fun as possible. And so if a bouncer is consistently creating problems at the door, or yelling at me, or I'm yelling at him, like there's just, that camaraderie is just not there, and that's a big problem. There's a connotation when it comes to bouncers and people that work in security that they're like super mean people, and to the public they need to have that persona to ensure that the safety of the actual event and the ability to take control of situations and assert their dominance. But when it comes to people that work together, like since I work alongside these security people at the same venue and clubs as they do, because I treat them with respect, they treat me with respect. I can't say that's the same for everywhere in all clubs and all bouncers, because it's definitely not. But the few clubs where I do experience it, it makes me feel really good. I know it makes them feel really good, because a lot of people all night are just giving them problems and giving them shit. And so if I'm able to just talk to them and just have a conversation with them for like 5 minutes out of my entire night, I think it really helps for them to feel comfortable as well as me as well. Because having a good relationship with security, especially at a club, is extremely important for anybody. So be nicer to staff and bouncers, people. I've seen bouncers punch people in the face. I've seen bouncers throw people to the ground and tackle people. But this one story that happened to one of my really good friends, I will never forget. It's the slimiest thing I've ever heard regarding bouncers. This story took place when I was first getting into nightlife. It was over 2 years ago. But the way it happened and when I was explained it, it rubbed me the worst way possible. And it was the grossest and most disgusting thing I've ever heard a bouncer do to someone. In New York City, there are a bunch of different clubs ranging from extremely exclusive to extremely inclusive to like celebrity hotspots or just general public places. And so this one club in particular, all my friends are going to one night. And there's like a group of 4 girls, and I think they're all going with this one promoter. And so they all got there early, probably around 11:30. And then this one girl was coming later, so she came at like 12:30. And they couldn't get her in because it was super packed. This one club in particular is an extreme celebrity hotspot, and they are so exclusive. They will judge you at the door and tell you you're ugly. They will tell you if you're hot and you can come in. It's very much like that. So anyway, a bunch of my girlfriends got into this club, and their one friend came late. And so now they're trying to get her in because it's super hard to get someone in once your promoter goes in and once the party's already getting going. She showed up around 12:30, so obviously it's going to be super packed outside. There's a line of probably 50, 60 people just swarming the door, and the bouncers are literally just looking around with the clipboard saying, yeah, you can come, and you can come. Except this girl is not getting picked. I don't know what the reason was for. I think just at max capacity. And so the girl goes outside, one of my best friends, and goes up to the bouncer and says, hey, like, I need to get this girl in right there. She's with us. The bouncer's like, not right now. No one's coming in. Obviously, it's too packed. You see the surrounding swarm of people everywhere, all trying to get in, all dressed the exact same way, all beautiful, by the way, but it's just way too packed. And so the bouncer tells that to the girl, and she's like, damn it. But if you know anything about my friend group, these girls are persistent. These girls are club rats to the max. They will search every nook and cranny, talk to every person possible to get what they want. And they do, and they're very good at it. And these girls in my friend group at the time have been clubbing way longer than I had. Like at this point, I'd only been to like maybe 1 or 2 clubs in my entire life. These girls were professionals. They are the ones taking me around. So now obviously my friend's upset and she's going to get her friend in because if you can't get your friend into a club, like why are you at the club? So after she's arguing with the bouncer, she gets sent back inside and the bouncer's like yelling at her saying like, get the fuck out of here, go back upstairs. And she's not taking no for an answer. But as she's being forced back inside of the club, she sees this guy right on the inside that overheard her conversation and he goes over to her and he's like, hey, do you have a friend trying to come in? Like I overheard your conversation. I think I can get her in. The guy then proceeds to tell her with his full chest. He says, if you give my friend top over here, he'll be able to get your friend in. What? When I heard this part, I visibly was shook. I could not believe that that is like such normal camaraderie inside of a club and that people would even consider this. I thought this was the most disgusting, vile conversation I ever heard, and I did not ever think anyone would ever actually do this. Now at this point I'm thinking, wow, so I guess they must have just left the club, like they went home, they said fuck it to this guy because this guy's absolutely talking crazy. Because no girl in their right mind is going to suck some random guy's dick to get their best friend into a club. Like I just didn't think it was worth it for anybody. Come to find out, she in fact did suck this man's dick. Apparently the guy that she pointed to go give top was a bouncer there, and they proceeded to hook up on the floor of this dirty club bathroom. If I ever heard that or I knew that was going on, I would immediately never want to be associated with that club. Like, I would want to get the fuck out of there. However, after the deed was done, the bouncer went to go uphold his side of the deal. And when they went back to the bouncers, the guy actually admitted, yeah, I'm not a bouncer and I don't even work here. So my best friend got played to go suck some random guy's dick and not even get their friend in as a result of it. A random man convinced one of my girlfriends to give his best friend top in return for the ability to get her friend into the club, just to be scammed and not even get her best friend in the club afterwards. Oh my fucking God. I was told this story the night it happened. I was hanging out with the roommates of this friend of who it happened to, and when they came back, she was laughing about it, telling it as if it was so funny and so stupid, and she didn't even care about it. But I did not understand that that was the culture of New York City nightlife. And by no means is that normal, people. Like, if this ever happens to you, you should immediately get the fuck out of there and never put yourself in a situation like that. No club is worth being that down bad to go into a bathroom with a random man, suck him off, and then try to get your friends into the club as a result of it. And the girls, when they were explaining the story to me afterwards, they were so casual about it. They're like, yeah, I just had to go to the bathroom and suck his friend off to get my friends in. And we couldn't even get in, so it kind of sucked. Like, it clearly sucked a lot. Like, I was so distraught by this. Like, I couldn't stop thinking about it and how weird and how uncomfortable that situation may have been. And now working in nightlife after all this time, I have never heard anything like that ever again. So just so you guys know, that is not normal, but it definitely does happen. And people will try to finesse you and fuck you over every chance they can. Didn't know I needed to make that PSA, but please never ever do that because that's just not worth it. For me personally, since I've been working in nightlife for the past couple of years now, I feel like the value of going out to me is just completely different. When I first started going out, everyone remembers their first time. You remember the first time going to a club, trying to getting in that crazy euphoric, exclusive feeling that you have inside of you, and like you're just so excited to be there and it feels so fresh and new. Like I remember my first time. And then as it just keeps going on and you keep going to more and more clubs, just the value that you hold to it and like how special it feels just starts decreasing. Especially because I work in throwing the events down themselves and creating the events. Like I just don't have that same appreciation for it. But I think it's really special when you first start going out. And it's so fun and it's so euphoric. And I can't stress enough how amazing it is those first few months of going out. But now I've been doing it for almost 2 years now. And like I just don't find the value in it that I used to. But it just kind of sucks. Being on the opposite side of events now, being the one that's bringing people to the club, being the one that's putting on the production of the club, hiring the DJs, making sure the events are going well and everyone's having a good time, I definitely find myself seeing it from a different point of view. I now look at it because I want to create events that people are excited about and make sure people have a good time, but a lot of people are not like that. And a lot of events that I go to that I don't create myself, a lot of the people that are hosting it just want to make the money and just want people inside, just want to charge guys an insane amount of money to come in, and then they don't even care if they fill it up, and they just don't really take pride in their ability to create events. So with me doing my event series and creating events for people, I really try to stress and put a lot of emphasis on the quality of the event, the quality of the DJs, the quality of all of the hosts, and making sure that there's non-fraternization rules and making sure that everyone's on a very tight schedule and doing their best because I care about the quality of events. And I really try my best to create them for people because I know how special and amazing it felt for me, and I would love to be able to pass that experience on to somebody else. Real quick, if you're enjoying Move Accordingly, hit that subscribe button so you can get updates on every single new episode, and hit that share button and share it with a friend so I can embarrass myself in front of more and more people. Anyway, back to the show. I think it's really difficult to continue talking on the podcast without addressing the breaking news which happened earlier this week. The news which I'm referring to is the shooting and unfortunate death of one of the three Migos, Takeoff, and hearing this is absolutely devastating. The Migos are an insane rap group consisting of 3 members, Quavo, Offset, and Takeoff. They're all family members, and together they've made such influential music that's pushed the needle forward in terms of rap and hip-hop culture altogether. One of the members, Takeoff, was shot and killed at a bowling alley around 2:30 in the morning on Monday, and honestly, just hearing this news is devastating. Unfortunately, though, hearing about a rapper killed is nothing new in our culture. And that sad fact really put into perspective the need for gun violence reform and the need for a shift in our culture, because hearing about this in the news, waking up and looking at Instagram and seeing a brand new TMZ headline with a brand new rapper shot and killed is nothing new in our culture, and just that normality should not be. There should be no normalcy surrounding the death of influential figures in our culture. But I don't want to sit here and talk about Takeoff's death, all those details you can look at the news for. What I want to talk about is the time just 3 weeks ago that the Migos came to one of the venues where I host events at and had their album release party. Now, ever since the split of Migos, Offset went on his own solo career, the remaining Migos have been putting together a brand new album called Made for Infinity Links. This consists of Quavo and Takeoff, and the album just released 3 weeks ago. And on the night of their album, they put together a party that was happening at one of the venues where I host events at. And the best part about all of this is it was the night that I was working. The Migos having their album release party at one of my favorite clubs in the city where I work, it was such a full circle moment because I am such a fan of the Migos. From Culture 1 and when Culture 2 dropped, I was in middle school, and I can vividly remember being in the car, seeing that the brand new album dropped on Spotify, hitting that shit, listening to all the songs, getting so motivated and inspired by Narcos and Stir Fry, and just hearing all those new hits that were coming out. It just absolutely changed the way which I viewed music and the culture of hip hop and what I liked and the sound altogether. Now, I feel like every kid remembers their first album that they're like, wow, like this is music and I like music. And when you find out like your taste in music and what your preferences are. And for me, Culture 2 is an album that really got me into listening to artists and listening to albums from artists and releases and starting to keep up with culture and media in that sense. Obviously, before Culture 2 dropped, the Migos had Culture 1, and they also had their huge hit with Drake, Versace, and Bad and Bougie, and all these other songs that were super popular. But I just remember being a big fan of the Migos almost a decade ago. And now the fact that they were coming to a club that I worked at the night I was working there to have their album release party is just so amazing that I got to be a part of that and experience that. It's so sad to hear about these artists that are being killed left and right because they're changing and impacting culture in such a way that's never been seen before. I don't know what needs to change, whether it's these artists getting more security and taking more pride in their ability to be safe and covered and protected, or if it's just gun violence reform as a whole in America. I think all of it together accumulates to what needs to happen to be progressive in this industry and have people that are accumulating such wealth and fame to be protected and have the opportunity to have a prosperous career long into their old age and not being taken from us so very soon. Having the opportunity to host an event and have my idols be at that very same event the exact same night is such an insane moment. I'm so very grateful, and the gratitude I have just to be there and be able to create an event like that, I will hold so dear to me forever, especially in the news of the new passing of Takeoff. I'm wishing nothing but prayers for Quavo and Offset in the light of this brand new news, and I really hope that they're able to get past this all together as a family because there's such a tight bond between that group, and I really hope that they're able to get through it together. All in all, being able to work at a club where such huge celebrities and influential figures want to come and shoot their album release party and get press release from these clubs is really cool, and it really helps me reassure myself that I'm on the right track to do something bigger and better, because I don't want to always work in nightlife, but I think that just being surrounded by people that are so successful and have such big goals and aspirations for themselves and are doing so much in culture and media is really reassuring. And I can't express my gratitude enough for the opportunity to have Takeoff and Quavo come to a club that I work at. With the amount of partying and feral shit that I've been doing this last couple of years, it definitely makes sense why I was almost kicked out of college my first year ever at university. I lived in college dorms during COVID, so that protocol was unlike anything I've ever experienced. The lockdown protocol, the quarantine period, everything was super, super strict because no one had no idea how to manage COVID, how they're going to manage social distancing and deal with new people coming onto campus, and that entire culture of college was taken from us immediately. So now here I am in the dorms. I think the dorms were at like 30% capacity over COVID. And now finally I'm like, great, I'm at college, I'm all alone. I want to be able to do whatever I want to do. I don't want to have any restrictions. And then bam, COVID happened. So now I'm like, fuck. All I want to do when I got to college was party, hook up with girls, and go out and just explore life and experience life as an adult and live that college Project X lifestyle that every single college kid wants to experience. But I got fucked with COVID protocols, and some of those protocols included no guests in the rooms, masks on in every common area, no socialization allowed. You had to stay 6 feet away from a person at every single point in time in the dorms, in your room, even in the cafeteria. So there was no social distancing, you had no ability to meet people, and it was extremely difficult to socialize at any level. Nonetheless, try to have a party. That was an absolute no. However, the problem with all the rules and protocols everyone on campus had was that to even be on campus, you need to have your vaccine already. And in addition to that, they did testing every 2 weeks. So everyone was constantly tested for COVID, and we all already had the vaccines in us. So there's no reason that we should even be social distancing or having to quarantine, because the only people we're hanging out with is people in our college as well. No guests were allowed in dorms. No one that even went to our college was allowed in our college rooms that was not myself or my roommate. And that's the part that sucked the most. This is the part where I fucked up though, because I started hosting parties in my dorms the first day I got to campus. Because there's all those group chats and all those different ways to talk to people and make friends before we even moved to college, I was in all of that. So I was already making friends, talking to people, except I fucked up because I was like, you know what? Fuck these rules. Fuck what everyone's going to say. No one's even on campus yet. If anyone's at college still during COVID, come to my dorm and we'll start partying. And that's exactly what we did. We would pack each other's dorms with like 15, 20 people. And these dorms are probably like 12 feet by 12 feet. They're tiny little boxes. And so we're packing it up. We're playing Pong. We're getting really fucked up in the dorms, playing speakers on music, connecting speakers to other people's speakers, just trying to create these insane house parties inside of dorms. And it's so funny because looking back at it, we were so stupid. And we really were. And I don't recommend anybody doing this because I broke a lot of those rules. And the problem with all this is not that we did it, but it's that my dumb ass decided to film it. And people were filming them, posting them on social media because everyone thought that it was super cool and super fun. And so our way to like get more people to come was we post the videos. And so I was posting these YouTube videos every single week. And I had a lot of people watching all my YouTube videos because if you were quarantining, you wanted to see what was going on at your college. So they're watching my videos. And I had a video I made the year before about my college go viral. It got like 30,000 views on YouTube. And so there were a lot of people just trying to tune into my life and what was happening on campus at the time. And so I was filming all of this, posting it all on YouTube. And of course, it was not the people that were actually on campus, the people that didn't even come to school, the people that were actually in school. It was the ones that had to quarantine and hotels for 2 weeks before coming onto campus that were watching those videos and reporting them to the dean. That shit fucked me. Because of this, everyone in that video was identified and we were all called out. We all got in trouble for having alcohol in the room. We got in trouble for having guests in the room. We got in trouble for breaking protocol. We got in trouble for having noise complaints. Like, we got the book thrown at us. Well, not us. By us, I mean me. Everyone else pretty much got off pretty safely, but because it was in our room, I caught the most heat for this. How my school's protocol worked was you got 15 strikes, and if you reach 15, anything more than that, and you're kicked out of campus. 15 strikes seems like a lot, but you have to remember, this is over a 1-year period of time living in the dorms, and every time you repeat offend something, the points double. So say, for example, having a guest in your room counted as 2 conduct points. If you had a guest more than once, now that's 4 conduct points. If you had a guest a 3rd time and got caught, that's 8 conduct points. And right there, that's 15 and you're kicked out. Or for example, having alcohol in your room, that's 3 conduct points. And if you do it again, that's 6. The first time I got caught was because someone reported a YouTube video that I filmed and posted about one of the parties I had. The second time we got caught was irresponsible on my end because our room is right next to the RA's room. Like literally we share a common wall. So I should have known that the second we had a speaker playing, he was going to hear it. So one of these RAs, like 11 o'clock at night, heard our speaker playing really loud at probably like only 11 or 11:30, but I think lights out was like 10:30. And so at this point now, it's 11:30 at night, they're knocking on our door, and we couldn't hear anything. And at this time, we only had, I think, 3 or 4 girls in our room that night, and just me and my roommate. Super chill night, we're just playing Pong, getting to know these brand new girls that just came to our building, and just hanging out. And then all of a sudden at 12 o'clock, our suite mate comes across the hall and is like, yo, someone's banging at the door. And so obviously everyone starts to panic when this happens. Now we have girls in our room, which we're not supposed to. We have open alcohol, which we're not supposed to. We have a Pong table set up, which we obviously should not have. And we were playing music. So we were really fucked. And so when we go to open the door, automatically the RAs are like, we've been out here for 20 minutes. What the fuck are you up to? We know you're having a party. And that's what got us our 2nd conduct points, or our 2nd meeting for conduct points. And for that meeting, we got hit with the book again. And so that put me at like 8 points already. And this is only the 2nd week of college. And now because of my own stupid decisions, everyone knows over all social media that I'm throwing all these parties, and the school's trying to kick me out every chance they can. They're trying to make me the poster boy for what not to do when you're moving on campus. So I was already under a tight watch now. My RAs were on my ass. I had weekly check-ins, and it was just very, very bad. A terrible first impression for myself on college campus, and it was just not a great first semester. After my 2nd conduct meeting, I already met with someone that I could tell was definitely trying to kick my ass out. And so they had me on a tight watch, and I was not trying to fuck up anymore because I really just did not want any more problems. To be cavalier, what ultimately fucked me was I made the stupid mistake of hooking up with a girl inside of my dorm while my RA was next door. And the problem wasn't that we were hooking up. It was that the RA could hear us, and the problem is that you're not allowed anybody in your dorm via the guest policy violations and the handbook. And because I already had conduct points building up, I already had a guest policy violation twice. So now that violation is going to be worth 6 points. And now that puts me at 14 points because I had a girl in my room and the RA next door heard us. And he didn't say anything while we were there, but as she was leaving at the worst possible moment, he walked outside of his room just because he was on a walk to go somewhere and ran into her. And he knew that she wasn't on our floor, and she said that she was coming from our room, and that got me fucked. I got sent right back into the same Zoom meeting with the exact same people that had the problem with me last time, and they're like, how are you back here again? We just saw you a week ago, and now you're back here again, and now with this new violation, that puts you at 14 points. If you get anything more, you'll be kicked off of campus with no refund for the semester. This was terrible because it wasn't even 2 months into school. This was like 5 weeks into the first semester of college, and I was already on my last string. I ended that semester being a pretty good kid. I didn't have any more conduct violations. I stayed away from all security, didn't have any issues with anybody, and I ended up getting all those points revoked and removed, and so I was back in a clear slate. So me and all the authoritative figures that did not like me, we were sort of on like a clear ground, starting from scratch. Everything was good to go. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and supporting the first ever episode of Move Accordingly. I've been your host, Malcolm Charles. Make sure to follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Move Accordingly Show, and hit me up on Instagram, Malcolm X Charles. Thank you guys so much for watching new episodes every single Tuesday. I have so many more memories and so many more experiences to tell you guys about. I'm so excited to do it. As always, move accordingly.